If you asked me 4 years ago if I'd be looking at a Roblox Piggy series because a large amount of people asked for it, I'd laugh in your face. Or maybe I would cry in your face. It's honestly up to your interpretation. But I finally get to take a break from games I'm always bad at because we're talking about a YouTube series today. That series being PGHL Films' Piggy series. One comment said,
"It's worth it. There's a lot of humor and it's really funny to watch. I personally speedrun every episode when I found out about this."
So I will hold that person accountable for everything that is to come. I'm going to be going through almost all of the episodes. And I say almost because I'm going to be skipping all of the Book 1 fodder. It's mostly what-if scenarios that have nothing to do with the Book 2 story. Although there are a couple callbacks to things that happen in the Book 1 series. So when those moments pop up, I'll quickly go over them. Okay? Okay. With that, let's just begin with episode 1. Willow failed to escape? Episode 1 was released on September 20th, 2020 and is currently sitting at a fat 10 million views. So obviously the series is going to be absolutely peak, sitting with the greats such as The Godfather and Cool Cat Saves the Kids.
Through the store. It looks like the store has some
Okay, maybe not. The first and most prominent issue the series has is the voice acting. You know that thing you do when you want to yell to make your friends laugh, but you don't want to wake up your parents? You know, kinda like this? Yeah, that happens throughout the series. And if you're like me, you get the craziest secondhand embarrassment. But I'll let it slide only because if something works fine enough, there's no need to fix it. It seems like people don't really care about the voice acting too much, so why fix it? I don't know how many people out there would want to voice freaking Doggy anyway. Anyways, the video opens with Doggy and PGHL trying to... Yeah, I'm not saying that every single time. Screw it, we're calling him Paul. Video opens with Doggy and Paul trying to open a door. Behind the door is a criminal known as Willow. So Paul uses his Iron Man suit or whatever to break the door down because he has a super secret government technology to catch petty criminals. Now that is Sigma. So the gang finds Willow and chases her down. Willow tries to shoot Paul, but then we get a hilarious oof joke. And after that, we get our first of many fourth wall break jokes in the series.
No, I don't want to hear it.
This is your cue to laugh.
Worth it. There's a lot of humor and it's really funny to watch.
And after that, we get another joke, but this time I'm forcing you to watch it all too.
Rules, what? And so do I. Wait, Doggy, why are you
As you guys can probably tell by now, this series uses a lot, and I mean a lot, of outdated humor. Especially when it comes to one-off gags like the one I just showed you. And when the series tries to take itself a lot more seriously down the line, all I could do is just think back to these memes and just make fun of it. But let's just lock in and watch the rest of the video. After Paul and Doggy capture Willow, we cut to the future and see Zizzy talking to Pony. Pony then says that Paul has been gone for 2 months, but apparently Paul needs some hearing aids because he immediately asks how long he's been gone for. They continue to yap to each other until Georgie teleports in the room using his teleporter trap. I'm assuming it's explained how we got this in the first few episodes, so I won't question why this happens. Georgie yaps for a while until the episode ends, so that was episode 1. What did we all think? I believe it's pretty obvious that the first few episodes are gonna be some of the hardest watches on the planet, and the first episode proves that. The series is gonna be full of outdated humor that genuinely shakes my very soul. Or it, well, you know, make me pause the video for like a second. But those two things are like interchangeable. But let's move on to the next episode to prove my point. And oh boy, does it get proven alright. Episode 2, Playing Uno with the Infected, was released on October 17th, 2020. It's currently sitting at 4 million views, a whole 6 million less than episode 1, though it seems like the views on this episode will be the series' average. But enough with that boring stuff, let's talk about the juicy bits. The first 10 seconds of the video is a reference to the Henry Stigman collection's Completing the Mission game. Since it's not really a joke and more of a reference, I'll let it slide. Paul and his gang of misfits fall down a sewer entrance. The sewer entrance leads the 3 of them to the store map. So it seems like every episode is going to follow one of the chapters from book 2. 2 infected approach our gang and begin to speak. Explain they have the batteries that Paul and his pals need for a radio, but they'll have to play Uno to get them. Blah blah blah, an unfunny moment happens and the gang gets the batteries, and that's where episode 2 ends. I'm pretty sure this is the shortest episode in the series and adds almost nothing to the story. Hell, I yapped about the stats of this video longer than the video itself. And that brings me to my next complaint. These early videos don't really add anything of value to the series whatsoever. Let's just move on before I start going on a long rant about God knows what. Episode 3, Willow Gets Run Over by a Car, was released on November 25th, 2020 and is currently sitting at 10 million views. Huh. So I guess people just skipped episode 2 then. This literally proves my episode 2 is useless point. But this video is 12 minutes long, so let's not waste any time and talk about it. Episode 3 begins with the gang making their way to the safe place with the batteries from before. When they arrive, they tell Mole Woman and Kanye West about their misadventures. Paul presses a quote-unquote anti-filler button and skips the app session. And this scene makes me think, does PGHL Films know these scenes are completely obnoxious and boring to sit through? Is this some sort of test? But moving on, the gang agrees to meet with a group of people who are looking for other survivors. While that is happening, Georgie and one of Zizzy's sisters, C, both mutually agree that the survivors cannot be trusted. Georgie decides that he will follow the group to Old Oak and keep an eye out for them, even though bro is like 6 years old with 0 combat experience. But you do you, pig. When the gang arrives at Old Oak, they encounter TSP, and I don't know what it is, but the voice acting seems like 10 times worse in this section. Let me know what you guys think though.
Cared about, right? You shot me in the head. You brought in a tank and tried to kill me.
And then yap, Pony slaps Willow, yap, Pony gets shot, yap, Zizzy gets captured. We still have a ton of stuff to cover, so let's just move on. Pony and Paul arrive at the TSP refinery, and if things look drastically different to you, it's because the quality of the animation dropped by a lot. I believe the reason for this was because PGHL Films lost the footage and had to reanimate it, but he didn't feel like doing tons of work all over again, which is fine. I actually did the exact same thing in my last video. I lost like 6 minutes of fully edited clips and they all just got deleted, so I can see where he's coming from. Does it ruin the episode? I mean, I guess so. But at the end of the day, who really cares? Anyways, Pony and Paul are confronted by Willow, but she's soon hit by a car, so whatever, I guess. After that, the two of them break into the refinery. We're then hit with the most epic and hilarious Among Us reference ever.
It's worth it. There's a lot of...
You gotta remember that this video came out at the height of Among Us's popularity, but that doesn't change the fact that the scene and the scene after that are some of the hardest watches ever. Thank goodness Georgie shows up and ends our suffering. The gang meet up with Zizzy and they talk about what to do next. But oh no, Zizzy's infected. Cue the sad music. So Pony and Zizzy hug, blah blah blah, they joke about shipping or whatever. The trio arrive back at the safe place and it plays out like the OG Piggy did. And that is where episode 3 ends. I know I skipped over a lot of stuff, but we would be here all day if I explained every little detail. But what did I think of this episode? Well, it aged horribly, but I could see this one had a lot more effort put into it. And hopefully each episode keeps on improving, but let's just get into the next one. Episode 4, Pillow Willow, was uploaded on December 25th, 2020 and is currently sitting at 6.7 million views. This video is actually the 1 million subscriber special for PGHL Films. So let's see if this special lives up to its name. The episode begins where episode 3 left off. The gang is looking super sad due to Zizzy becoming infected. Everyone walks inside super depressed. They probably blasted some sad TikTok songs that night. The next day, the safe place is attacked by TSP. Georgie rushes to wake up the others so they can escape. They do normal but very epic Piggy gameplay and manage to escape their own safe place. When they leave the building, they are confronted by a very paranoid Willow and her gang of misfits. Georgie loses his plot device trap and our gang of heroes get kidnapped. As we cut to these bozos stuck in the cell, they all apologize to Pony for getting them stuck in this mess. But while this is happening, Georgie figures out a way to get another plot device trap. He'll need to enter a deep sleep and interact with his dreams. So Paul kinda just slaps Georgie and the episode ends there. Although this episode was a lot shorter, I found myself enjoying it a lot more than the previous ones. Maybe it's because PGHL Films didn't use any outdated references. Actually, it was definitely because of that. But with that, let's just move on to the next episode. Episode 5, George Recollects His Teleporter Trap, was uploaded on April 3rd, 2021 and is currently sitting at 23 million views. This is the highest view count yet, but I believe I know the reason why that is. But I'll get into that in a bit. For now, let's just talk about this episode like I've already been doing. The video begins with George entering his dream world while the gang just kinda chats. The sisters bust open the sewer entrance and Paul goes with them. We then cut to Georgie inside of Distorted Memory. See guys, I know what Distorted Memory is. Am I cool yet? Georgie sees Paris place down a plot device trap. Before we can see what happens, the episode cuts to Paul and the sisters inside the sewer. The gang soon encounters Elphys in the sewers and are forced to fight him. For a Roblox animation, this scene is actually pretty well done. It's definitely a telltale sign that the animation quality is getting better and better. We get to Georgie who's being chased by both Piracy and Memory, but Pig Boy gets absolutely finessed. Like, he was not expecting that at all. I'm gonna need some L's for Georgie in the chat. After that embarrassing play by Georgie Pig, we cut to Paul slicing Elphys' head off. Bro did not need to be doing all that. And yeah, you know the rest. Willow bullies Tiger for a bit, she shoots Kanye West, and then we cut back to Georgie. Bro decided now was the perfect time to catch some Z's and not some W's. Piracy bullies him for a bit and leaves him inside of a cell. After that, an epic Friday Night Funkin' reference ruins the entire episode.
Worth it. There's a lot of humor and it's really funny to watch.
And immediately after that, a section literally called Filler begins. Like, is this some sort of test? Am I supposed to be learning something from all this? After that nonsense, we cut to a really well animated fight scene. Willow is getting a Jujutsu Kaisen level jumping, and it's probably the best thing in this episode. Paul's suit gets destroyed, and Georgie decides it's time to lock in. Georgie and Paul jump Willow while Tiger does some super sneaky stuff. Paul decides to help Pony free all TSP members while Georgie deals with Willow. We get some horrible one-liners from Paul and Georgie. Like, come on guys. And then Willow says this.
Give that pole to me, Daddy!
Yeah, remember when I said I believe I know why this video got so many views? It's probably because this one clip is viewed so often. But let's just move on before I lose more sanity. Somehow Willow survives the onslaught of attacks and destroys both Georgie and Paul. So Willow has her hissy fit and the gang decides to team up. But Georgie still doesn't trust her and tries to kill her. Paul helps Willow up and the episode ends. Whew, wow, that was long. And it's only going to get longer from here. So what are my thoughts? Well, for starters, the episode was structured so oddly. Why was there filler? I don't know. Why did the episode cut to different scenes a lot? I don't know that either. But other than that, this episode was fine. Hopefully the next few videos can find a formula and stick with it. But with that, let's just move on. Episode 6, Getting Along, was uploaded on July 31st, 2021, and is currently sitting at 6.5 million views. This video was the longest by far with over 20 minutes of stuff to cover. So how about we just get into it and not waste any more time? The episode begins with the gang trying to find Willow's boat to cross the sea. But oh no, Tiger took it. So now they're stuck until they can find something else. The trio of Paul, Willow, and Pony decide to get the lighthouse up and working. But Georgie decides to stay behind and reflect on stuff. While Pony's exploring, he starts having an episode. Bear with him, guys. He's a little cuckoo. But the reason Pony is going insane is because of the Eye of Insolence. Speaking of the insolence, Paul finds a new friend. And immediately after that, we get a Senior Pello reference.
You just touched a child! You touched my child!
But that doesn't last long, so maybe PGHL Films is learning. Guys, let's be proud together. But after this, Paul says he dropped one of the batteries they needed in the ocean. So he kinda just uses a dumb Iron Man suit to power it up. This attracts the attention of Budgie and her boat. She picks up her gang and tells them that the ship is out of fuel. Georgie and Willow argue for a while. Willow and Paul decide to get fuel and the rest of the gang do nothing. Paul and Willow beat up Infected in a pretty well animated fight scene, but they get locked together in the fuel reserves. Paul and Willow have a heartfelt conversation and Willow seems to connect with Georgie's story. They both lost their family, so they both understand the struggles. And this scene right here is honestly great. PGHL Films has the tools to create a better version of Piggy Book 2 if he does more scenes like this, building off the characters instead of making Among Us jokes. But after all that, Georgie manages to find the two nerds and saves them. The gang puts the fuel in, but the Infected are missing. Uh-oh. So Georgie tweaks out, but on the bright side, Paul's suit gets fixed. In the next scene, Georgie talks to a guy named King Piggy. He was originally from the Book 1 roleplays that I talked about at the beginning of this video. King Piggy shares some wise words with Georgie. Georgie decides he'll use his powers for good and try to get along with Willow. And all it took was a yellow pig. Georgie wakes up from his little nap and sees Willow watching over him. They both talk about their pasts and learn why they did the things they did. And then they both hug it out. Aww. Isn't that adorable? Or I guess I should say Piggy-dorable. Or maybe Adora Piggy. Because we're watching a Piggy short film. After this, the episode ends. The episode does a lot more right than wrong. I like how the series is slowly expanding on the characters. It's doing what the original Piggy didn't. Let's just move on to the next episode. Episode 7, Decisions and Forgiveness, was uploaded on November 20th, 2021 and is currently sitting at 3.2 million views. This episode seems to follow Piggy Book 2, Chapter 9. And if you don't remember, this is the docks map. But let's not waste any more time and get into it. The video opens with the ship arriving at the docks. The episode has some weird subtitles at the beginning, but it reverts back to the original text boxes later, so it's no real issue. Pony and Paul leave the others to go look for Tiggery. Pony then gets impaled in the chest and somehow lives. Roblox logic, I guess? Paul decides to stay with Pony while George fights the meanie head moose. The moose decides it's time to lock in and manages to keep up with Ultra Instinct Georgie. But Paul and Georgie decide to use their alts to defeat the evil moose. Tiggery and Paul discuss if Willow can be trusted while Georgie explores the place. Tiggery offers them a deal, but Paul denies that like a Sigma. Tiggery walks away like a whiny baby and the others decide to group up. Georgie gets stalked for a bit, but whatever. That can't possibly be important. The gang enters a winter wonderland with bombs everywhere until they encounter Kona. Kona yaps about the infected for a bit like a nerd. The gang forces Paul to enter a creepy basement to clear the way. Obviously these people care about his safety. Robbie is also forced to accompany him, but he's a robot so who cares. And then another meta joke happens.
It's worth it. There's a lot of humor.
Kona promises to upgrade Paul's suit because he's smart or whatever, and that's where the episode ends. A much shorter one, but a pretty decent one nonetheless. I can definitely tell each episode is having a lot more time and effort put into it, but the next episode is a little interesting, so let's just get into it. The next video is simply titled Kona's Security Cameras. It's an analog horror styled episode and you're supposed to watch it before episode 8. So here we are. Kona sets up a camera and explains when he was digging into the ground under his house for more room, he found a temple. We then see pictures of this temple. Kona sets up cameras in the basement to spy on whatever's down there. Soon he figures out that a spider is living down in the basement. Although, the spider was infected shortly after Kona met her. Womp womp. After this, we get to see the camera's POV. Tio's goofy face appears once, and then we cut to some sick-ass lore. Spidella whatever, talks to Tio for a little bit. She says she misses her father. After that we get a goofy jump scare and then blah 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 next episode. Okay fine, I'll talk about it. This short is pretty well put together, although it feels really out of place in the series, especially since it's going for a horror vibe when Among Us was referenced in the last episode. Other than that, there's nothing else to mention. So let's get back on track. Episode 8, A Bittersweet Reunion, was uploaded on April 17th, 2022, and is currently sitting at 4.3 million views. The episode begins with Kona showing off the new suit concepts, and everyone starts glazing it. But while that is happening, Willow sneaks off because she doesn't trust Kona, so she looks around Kona's underground lab. She finds the temple, but something finds her too. Soon she's face to face with the spooky spider. They begin fighting, and it's probably the best the series has looked to date. But while the two are fighting, Willow gets transported to Tio's fun dungeon, but she soon gets attacked by something and we cut to Georgie talking about his nightmare to Kona. Kona brings up the fact that Tio could have done it, and Pony and Kona start having some sort of bonding moment or whatever. Georgie ruins everything with a purple guy, man behind the slaughter reference. Kona theorizes that Georgie could be part of the insolence, so Kona asks for a blood sample. Kona figures out his theory is correct, but somehow Georgie is able to control his power. We soon cut back to Willow, who managed to make it out alive. Kona catches her red-handed and gives her a stern talking to. On a side note, there's like 2 sexual jokes in the span of 1 minute, which I would usually ignore, but isn't this series for kids? Actually, I don't want to think about that stuff right now. Paul walks in the room because his 8 animal parents were fighting. But all this talk about a spider has his brain remembering stuff he's forgotten about. Kona gives us a rundown on her lore. Apparently she's also Paul's daughter in the lore, which is also something I don't want to think about. But I believe the reason for this odd lore inclusion was because PGHL Films animated Spidella in the actual game, and thus she became his daughter, I guess. Paul and Robbie go down into the lab and hopefully die or whatever. But before Paul goes down into the lab, Kona gives him a potion. The two of them enter the temple and Spidella stalks them for a bit. But Spidella throws webs at them and they're forced to use the potion. Blah blah blah, she becomes kinda normal again. Yay! But then we cut to a filler scene. After that, we cut to Kona making the suit. Georgie bursts in and sees a teleporter trap similar to his own. Georgie touches it and gets sent to the fun dungeon. Tio greets Georgie and the episode ends there. My prediction of the series slowly getting better over time is 100% coming true. We're getting better animation, less unfunny jokes, more story, and it's improving the Piggy story by exploring areas we've never seen. But we only have a couple episodes left, so let's go over them. Episode 9, Trust Issues Part 1, was uploaded on July 21st, 2023, and is currently sitting at 1.1 million views. This video came out more than a year after the last one. In the description, PGH Films talks about the original script for Trust Issues being incredibly unfunny. Well, it's good to hear he's finally learning, but I digress. He took a year off to watch more films and shows, more tutorials, and etc. Now he can confidently say he's a lot better, which honestly makes me excited to see whatever he's cooked up here, so let's just get into it. The video begins with Georgie speaking to Tio in the fun dungeon. Tio explains that everything Georgie saw in his dreams was his doing, but he also tells Georgie that he's the reason behind his parents becoming infected. He then asks Georgie if he'd want to join him, but that's kind of stupid because he just told Georgie he infected his... whatever. I'm done making sense of the series. Georgie accepts only if he agrees to bring back Zizzy, because I guess he's an idiot. He's soon sent to the refinery by these weird hand things. We cut to Zizzy's POV. This part seems to follow the distraction chapter, with the twins bot and Zizzy slowly turning infected, but she soon encounters Tio herself. He yaps to her for a bit, mentions her sister, Zizzy gets mad, and boom, convo done. Zizzy decides to create a distraction, but she soon gets captured by some silly people, and that's the episode. This is only part 1, but part 2 is yet to release. But what are my thoughts on this one? Well, mostly positive for a change. The animation is a lot better, and you can tell. This episode tries some new ideas out, and they work very well. But the best thing this video did is make Tio an actual antagonist. Tio was my biggest gripe with the original Piggy, and I really like to see what this series is doing with him. But we have one more episode to talk about, so let's just get into it. Episode 10, Toxicity and Positivity, was uploaded on October 31st, 2023, and is currently sitting at 400k views. This episode is 3 minutes long, but it's surprisingly not the shortest one. That honor goes to the damn Uno video. But let's just not waste any more time and talk about it. Episode begins with the origins of Doggy's infection. You know, the character from book 1 with like 0 character development? Yeah, that Doggy. Willow monologues for a bit and forces Pony to do her dirty work. It then cuts a Pony venting his issues to Zizzy, Sigma style. They go like this back and forth until Zizzy disappears. Yep, it was all some sort of realistic dream, most likely done by Tio. But that's the whole episode. Instead of talking about the episode alone, let's go over everything, because oh boy, there's a lot to talk about. This series is a mixed bag, and it's kind of hard to articulate my thoughts about it. The first few episodes are nothing short of cringy. There's way too many references to old internet humor that ruins any chance of being taken seriously. With things like Among Us jokes in episode 3, or the FNAF references in the later episodes. It completely takes me out of the experience, and it sucks because the animation isn't half bad by any means. I would actually call it good, but when I have to listen to awful one-liners every minute, I just get tired. That's why I had so much trouble watching episodes 1 through 5. I literally had to take breaks. But I'll give credit where credit is due. The script writing in the last few episodes is a huge improvement. When there was less updated humor, I could actually binge the last few videos. So if the script writing improves even further, we got some peak on our hands. And speaking of peak, the animation in the last couple episodes has been fire, so there's no reason to critique it in any way. But the last thing I want to discuss is the voice acting. I fully recommend getting voice actors in the future videos. I understand if most of the characters who are already introduced keep PGHL Films' voice. For any new idiots that are shown, please hire literally anyone else. But I understand if it's more of a charm thing. Like, keeping only one voice actor makes the series stand out. Will it do the series any favors? No. But whatever. But with that out of the way, what are my final thoughts? And what's the future of this series? Well, for starters, I believe I'm too far into the series to just not watch any new releases, for better or for worse. This series came out when Piggy was at the height of its popularity, and some people seem to forget that I myself was a huge fan of Piggy back in 2020. So I literally watched the first few episodes of this series when they came out. But it's kinda sad to see how the series went from getting tens of millions of views to just barely reaching 1 million. But Piggy as of now is pretty dry in terms of content, so it makes sense. But I believe there will be a couple more episodes to wrap things up. One coming out very soon actually, or so I'm told. So there's actually that to look forward to, I guess. And my final thoughts are, this series was definitely weird to say the least. I won't repeat myself 1,000 times, so let me end things up with this.
There's a lot of humor, and it's really funny to watch.